going on, everybody? I was almost singing there. Welcome to a new and exciting episode of the Viall Files, Ask Nick edition. I'm your host, Nick, joined by Allie and Amanda. How are you guys doing?
I'll let Allie take this
Allie
one.
has a broken heart. What did we call him?
Wedding guy, right?
We alternated between like wedding guy and Minnesota boy, I swear. Same dude.
I wonder if the audience is going to be as surprised as I was.
What?
Because it sure sounded like you weren't sure about him.
Oh.
But
Well,
no.
I think at the beginning, I definitely like pushed back because I was very overwhelmed. But the distance, I feel like in that way was ideal because like it could just be based on communication and it was like a nice like slow burn. But yeah, it's done. I was in a very different state on Tuesday than I am now because it went down on Monday night.
So why do you think you were crying so much?
Because it was done. It was
No,
over.
I know. Well, because you were, at least early on, you seemed to be the person who was unsure about him.
Yes, which I fully admit. However, that was early to mid-October.
Was it one of those like classic, you were unsure about him, you let him in a little bit more, he offered to fix your computer, and then you were like, where's this going? And then you asked him, and then you got an answer you didn't like.
No, I mean, I feel like it was more than that. Like, I would say throughout like all of November, it was much more like flirty texts, like talking on FaceTime, like we talk about all the time, like saying babe, saying goodnight, kissy face. You know what I mean?
Saying
Like,
babe.
yeah.
Those were nice things, but like there was a time when he wanted to come out here, and you're like, I don't know if I want him to come.
100%. We keep going back to that. That was in October.
It's only early December.
I understand that, but yeah.
And he did end up visiting, right?
No, he didn't come out here. I saw him when I was home in Minnesota after Thanksgiving. And that was really great. We spent like, our date was like 7 hours long and it was great. And it was just like in that way, it was so nice because I'm so anxious when I date. And then it was like quote unquote the first date, but I was like, this is not the first date. So it was just really nice. It felt very like loving and comfortable.
I think you were more sad about the disappointment than him.
Yeah.
Well, if you're an anxious dater, you have a hard time letting people in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did.
Yeah.
It was a lot of disappointment.
We're on good
terms.
terms.
Does he still have your old computer?
He does. He asked, he was like, do you want me to give it to like our friends, the ones who got married? I would love to see you, but like I understand if you don't want that. And I just told him I would let him know.
And this was and you did the thing where I tell people to be like, you asked for some sort of expectations.
Well, he said I FaceTimed him randomly on Monday because I just like wanted to see his face. And he was like, he said something of like out of nowhere. He was just like, well, yeah, I mean, like we shouldn't commit to anything until we're in the same city.
And that triggered you.
And I was like, oh. And I like kind of brought it up like as a joke at the end of the FaceTime call of like, well, I mean, like, I guess we're not committing to anything. And he was like, no, it's like not what I meant or whatever. We hung up. I like went back to working and he texted me and he was like, sometimes like my brain just like overthinks things. Like I am really excited to see you in December and like, or like when you come home for Christmas, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like, no, it was good because I've actually been like thinking about bringing it up to you anyways and like wanted to see where your head is at.
How many times have you guys hung out?
We met at the wedding and then we hung out in person after Thanksgiving. So wedding, night after the wedding, and then once after Thanksgiving.
Why did we try to define things that early?
Because it's been 2 months of like talking every single day and like kind of being each other's person. Like when you like, and he also said something he didn't intend for it to like be like, but he was like, I mean, we've been on one date. And I was like, that fucking hurts because like this is not like a one date. This is not like we've been on one date.
It's tricky. I see both sides.
Do you talk to people that like that for like it's the communication thing?
I've had similar, I guess, relationships that you're describing with people. And yeah, I mean, as much as we talked on a regular basis, I was like, we've seen each other twice.
Do you think you felt like surprised when he said that or misled? Like, was it sort of a situation where it had been sort of ambiguous where this was going? You had hopes about it. and then that like dashed the hopes? Or was it a situation where you felt like it was pretty clear, like you felt like you were on the same page about what it was building to?
I feel like surprised. Like I feel like he even said something when we were hanging out after Thanksgiving, and he was like, no, this is great because like we keep it casual and we're not dating or whatever. And I was like, just kind of like feels like we are. Like I feel like it felt like a relationship to me. And like I totally understand the logic and the distance and like not wanting to commit to that. I guess my question then was like, so like I never intended to keep talking to him after the wedding. I was like, cool guy, fun times, great. He was the one like doing all this communication. So then I was like, I'm just confused of why we were doing that for 2 months if he like had this sure rule that he was not going to do distance.
He
like,
said he had some sort of
golden
rule.
He was just like, I don't want to do distance. Like, I just think he's at a different spot in his life where he's like probably dating to marry, and that's not where I'm at.
Like, was he hooking up with other people, do you think? Or was that something you guys ever discussed?
I don't think so, only because he told me a story one time of like how he was like really heartbroken by this girl because she like hooked up with someone else. And I was like, oh my God, like when you guys were like dating? And he was like, no. And I was like, but you'd had like the exclusivity talk? And he was like, no. But he was still like really heartbroken about that. So like I took that as like, this is a dude who like sees one person at a time and almost has that assumption for other people in his life. So I never like thought that that was the reason behind it.
Well, I was just trying to figure out what it is, because it sounds like it's not the communication element, because like what you were doing is arguably like kind of
that's because it felt like
the commitment of a relationship.
As much as you guys communicated, you still might not have been the most effective communicators with one another. If he said something that triggered you, which happens all the time for people, and you got a little anxious and guarded, having thought about all the investment of time that you put in this conversation, and then you immediately put him on the spot to say, well, what the fuck are we? Like, what do you mean? What then he's triggered by being like, well, I don't know. I feel like I can see how that could go real south.
And I feel
easily.
like it, like from my perspective, I didn't bring that up because he said that. Like I was even thinking over the weekend, like there was like a whole Saturday night where like he was like out and I didn't intend or like expect to hear from him when he was out, but like never heard from him when he got back home. And then I was like, that makes me disappointed. It's like, I need to check in with that of like why I want him to / expect him to. I am at the point now where like I'm flagging these things that I'm doing and like being disappointed by. So I need to like figure out what I want and like what he wants, because like I don't want to keep feeling disappointed for something that's like potentially not a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So it was already coming. It just like then it happened sooner than expected because he made that comment on the FaceTime.
That's how you feel.
I think so. Because I like at this point, I'm like, God damn it, Allie, if you hadn't FaceTimed in on Monday, I'd like still be talking to him right now.
Well, that's the question. The question is despite all that, maybe this miscommunication escalated and brought up this ending of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is did you panic and force an issue for something he wasn't prepared to talk about? Because it's not unreasonable for him to not want to commit to a long distance relationship having only hung out with you once. That's not unreasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand you have talked to him every day. You felt like this investment. So the question is, and I'm not saying you should do this, but the question is, if you were to, what does your gut tell you? Like if you were to say, hey, listen, I thought about our conversation and I really enjoyed our time together. I really like talking to you. I like you. And I get we've only hung out once. It's just, I felt like maybe you were like, regardless if we keep talking, I do want to know it's going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I had already decided to invest my time in you by talking to you every day. I had already thought about the possibility of us being in a long-term relationship, and I was open to that. And I was good with investing in that. And did I either put you on the spot, or is it a non-starter for you? Because if it's a non-starter for you, then it's good that you ended it, because you just saved yourself what will ultimately have been more pain down the road.
Well, and I think that's like kind of what I tried to bring up in that way. And he said something along the lines of like, I really like you, and like you have a great personality, and like I would love to keep talking with you and like keep you in my life and like basically keep doing what we're doing, but like no, he's not interested in like a long distance relationship. So then that's, I think, where I had to make the call of, I can't keep doing this for what, like 2 more months, 6 more months. Like if it's not going to go, because then I'm just going to like fall harder and it's just going to hurt more.
So why did he start talking with you in the first place?
Exactly.
Did you ask him that?
No.
Why not?
I feel like maybe he like wants like what did you say? It's a reverse of the friends with benefits.
It's the opposite of friends with benefits.
He just wants like the emotions.
They're like no physical intimacy, all the like communication.
Yeah.
I feel like what he would probably say is like, oh, I didn't know it would go. Like, I just enjoyed chatting with you. And like, it just, you know what I mean? Like,
it just happened.
Yeah. I don't think he was being super mindful of the implications of the way you were communicating and how those would potentially clash with what he ultimately like saw for it.
It can go both ways. I don't know. I don't think it's we talk all the time. I mean, it takes time to get to know people. So, we're here criticizing, almost making fun of like, oh, you wanted to like reverse friends with benefits. But like every situation is different in a sense, right? Like two people could spend a lot of time talking and getting to know each other and build a relationship and not putting a lot of stress on each other and expectations, which comes with risks because if you're not committed, you could be dating other people but you could build something there. But for him, like, because most people like logically just say, I don't want a long distance relationship. Like no one's, you know what I'm saying? The average person is just like, it's not what I want. I don't want a long distance relationship.
Yeah, nobody's going in looking for a long distance.
And yet we often, with the world being what it is and the access to communicate with people makes it easier to maintain some kind of long distance relationship. You can FaceTime with people. And so when you meet someone and you're like, I don't like this person, and you start talking to them and you enjoy talking to them, you just kind of want to focus on enjoying that, right? And for some people, him, it didn't get to a point where he thought he could consider a long distance relationship. I don't want to have a long distance relationship was still like very much a thing for him. And yet he was just like, but I do enjoy talking to this person, and didn't give it much, and that's not necessarily wrong. And I get where you're coming from, but sometimes you guys, you might have talked every day for 6 weeks, but you still have a lot more to learn than you've learned. And it would have required you guys to build on that for him to say, no one wants a long distance relationship. When they choose to be in a long distance relationship, they make an exception for the person.
Yeah, it's like your hand is forced.
Yes. And and you kind of forced his hand. And he wasn't ready.
Alas. Here we are.
I'm leaning towards you panicked a little bit and forced an issue that might have been a little too soon, at the risk of avoiding greater pain down the road that you never can predict. And if you're going to get into a long-term relationship, it's like, I mean, shit, like as someone who's experienced some bad heartbreak or broken hearts, like it sucks, but like you have to be vulnerable. You have to give yourself to people, and you have to open up, and you have to date someone at the risk of them absolutely crushing you. And you try to avoid that so early on.
That's what I typically do, though. Like all of my relationships are like 2 or 3 months.
Quarter system,
Just get them done.
When you start asking, when you give them big, and I have gotten to know you, as an employee, that's great. That you're very like on top of it, and you're thinking about things, and you like, but sometimes you just have to let things, play out. And
I think you guys are going to hook up when you're home in December.
You can't avoid hurt. We have a great episode for you. More of this, really. Don't forget to send in your questions at asknick@castmedia.com, cast with a K. We are looking to maybe do some holiday-themed questions. So if you're fighting over the holidays, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. Family.
At least give your holiday pain a purpose and share your story with us. So send in your email at asknick@castmedia.com. Let's get to our callers. Master class. Be a master. Take a class. I was hanging out with my cousin and his wife this weekend, and they give the amazing gift of a master class to my uncle and his brother. And I was like, did you use codes VIALL? And they're like, we did. It's such an amazing gift, master class. Again, if you're just having a hard time thinking, what do I give someone who might have everything? Well, you can't have enough of knowledge. And masterclass is giving you all the knowledge you want and literally anything you want to have knowledge in, and being taught by truly masters of their field. So whether it's Martin Scorsese, Tony Hawk, Robin Roberts, Gordon Ramsay, Truly. I mean, those names are truly masters. So this holiday, give one annual membership and get one free for either yourself or another person. Give 2 gifts for one. Go to masterclass.com/VIALL today. That is masterclass.com/VIALL today. Terms apply. The best part is you get their whole catalog, and they're constantly adding new classes. It's only $180 for an annual membership, and you can access Masterclass on your phone, your Android, your desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku. Super easy and convenient. A great thing to use while you're traveling, on the road, sitting in a hotel room. And there you go. Be a master. Take a class. Masterclass. Are your thoughts running in endless circles in your mind? With the stresses of this last year, it's more important than ever to practice living healthier and happier lives. And that's where Headspace comes in. That's right. If you ever thought about guided meditation, Headspace is helping millions of people connect with, their heads and their space through Headspace. Sometimes you just want to get back to neutral. Maybe you have some kids and you want to get everyone kind of calm for the day or have them wind down as the day ends. Headspace is helping everyone do that. Individuals, families. Headspace is a convenient dose of meditation, mindfulness, and sleep exercises to relieve stress and anxiety to help you get a good night's sleep. All in one app, making it easy to catch up your breath and make time for your mental health. And it's one of the most science-backed meditation apps in the world, proving meditation works. A study proves in just 2 weeks, Headspace can reduce your stress by 14%. Honestly, it's great. Why ruminate when you can use your head to think of more happier things? Find some Headspace at headspace.com/VIALL and get 1 month free of their entire meditation library. This is the best Headspace offer available, so go to headspace.com/VIALL today. Headspace.com/VIALL.
Question time with Nick. Let's ask Nick your sexy questions.
How's it going?
Hi, Nick. How are you? My name is Jill. I'm 27 and I'm from New York.
How can I help?
So I'm in a situation right now between what my boyfriend thinks is right and what my family thinks is right. And it's on 2 completely opposite ends. It has to do with the COVID-19 vaccination and just differences in opinion. So a little bit of a backstory. I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. We met on Bumble back in 2019 before the pandemic started. And during the pandemic, we kept the relationship pretty strong, even though we couldn't see each other and things were fine. Even when we had to stop seeing each other for a little bit, again, the relationship was really good. And, we were talking every day. And even now, he treats me like a priority. He's a good boyfriend, but we started facing a problem. He is in the military and they're mandating the vaccine here for them. And he still doesn't want to get it. He thinks that it's something that he just doesn't want. And my parents are thinking that he is not caring that much about his career and that he should just get it, that he's not being a man. And, what's the big deal?
Wait. His parents have said that to him?
My parents said that to me. They think that he's going to lose his job with the military if he doesn't get it. And he's willing to just be discharged and not have to worry about just getting the vaccine. He keeps trying to avoid it, even though there are new rules that are coming in. And my parents are not okay with it. They think it's a problem and it's been causing me stress because, here I am trying to be supportive of him, but I also want to make my parents happy. And because of that, I haven't been making myself happy.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm curious about what do you think about it?
The thing is, I'd like him to just get it because we can do more things together. He couldn't come to a wedding with me back in October because he didn't want to get it. And at first it was because he didn't trust it. But now that they're mandating it, I guess I'm just confused as to why he just can't go and just get it. And I feel like things will be better if he does go, but I feel like he's just not going to change his mind no matter what I tell him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a challenging question just because, I mean, your boyfriend's not the only one who has very strong beliefs about not getting the vaccination. I mean, there's, whatever you think about or I think about it, there is a lot of disinformation out there. I think many families have difference of opinions inside the family about the vaccinations, my family included. I'm vaccinated personally.
Me too.
I think it's smart to get, but like, regardless of what we think, it's clearly an incredibly divisive topic. And it sounds like your boyfriend is very committed to this. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't see what you're going to do to change his mind. Have you talked have you sat down and tried to like one-on-one try to talk with him about this? I mean, the thing is, like, just thinking pragmatically and objectively, if we're talking just trying to make smart career decisions, like, the Army isn't the only one that's going to or has been mandating this. In fact, the Army, if nothing else, once they do something, a lot of organizations, I think, have a tendency of following down the line. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe that's the. I feel like, yeah. Well, I don't know if the Army sets precedents, but
he has another job. But the thing is, what if his other job mandates it? I mean, at some point, I feel like maybe he will if it really gets to that point. But I don't know if he's figured out his like between a rock and a hard place yet. I can't get him there. I mean, my dad was a heart patient. He had a procedure like right around the time that we met. And I tried explaining to him, you know what, I'll feel a little more comfortable if you get it because right now, yes, we're vaccinated, but I have family members with health problems. But then he was trying to tell me, I don't think he's going to get COVID from me. I mean, he already had COVID and he had that and I wasn't with him. Thank God for that. But that still didn't sway him, even if I tried to bring my family into it. And I think that's my fault personally, because we had a family party for Halloween and he was there and, I enabled that and I'm trying to go back and I'm trying to regress a little bit.
Go back. How so? What do you mean?
I just think that I shouldn't just be okay with what he wants. I think I have to start incorporating more with what I want.
Yeah, I mean
it's hard because I want him to be happy, and it's hard because sometimes I don't make myself happy.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I'm just trying to offer some like big picture ideas or advice. Like, I have no answers for you and like how to convince your boyfriend how to like get vaccinated if he's like dug in and reading like Facebook blogs about like conspiracy theories about like why it might be unsafe, et cetera, et cetera. But talking about relationships and talking about you and him, you should have a comfort level about your ability to discuss very difficult topics, especially as it relates to like having a family and making financial decisions for people who aren't just you, right? So if you two were a married couple, like how would you guys make financial and personal decisions for each other? Decisions that would impact one another, impact your kids, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people have these types of challenges when they're married and they don't have solutions. And do you feel like this is just an extreme example of a theme of your boyfriend being incredibly opinionated, not only about this, but maybe a great deal of things, and you seem to be the one who's always compromising, those things? Like either you guys agree and you get what you want through agreement, or you disagree and you have to be the one who's understanding his point of view, but he never seems to come around on yours. and you're doing a lot of head nodding, and it sounds like maybe that's how you
Yeah.
feel in general. So like,
Yeah.
while, maybe
Yeah.
the big picture for you is, boy, it's I understand how strongly people feel about it, whether I agree or disagree. And the fact that
Yeah.
he is willing to kind of quit and draw this hard line, like down the road, that decision, if you were married and having kids with him, would have a lot of impact on people you care about, and it would be much more of a challenging situation than simply, what should you do in this situation? Because like right now,
Yeah.
as difficult as breaking up with them might be, and trying to make your parents happy and your boyfriend happy, it's a pretty easy out. Much harder if you're married with kids. So,
I know. I mean, I talked to my friend about this too a while ago, and I said to her, I really don't know how to navigate this situation. And she was just like, you should just plain, flat out say, just ask him, like, where do you see this going? And every time I go to try to ask the question, I freeze. Like, I get nervous. I can't say it. It's hard to have those conversations.
So you don't even feel comfortable talking to your boyfriend about this stuff. Brooklinen. Oh, they're always Brooklinen. Every time I just say the word, I feel comfortable. That's right. The eighth wonder of the world, whether it's bath towels, hand towels, duvet covers, comforters, pillows, pillow casings. They have these new robes and towels that are like waffles. I don't know what they call them.
They're so absorbent.
So absorbent and soft.
Yeah.
They dry faster too. I love Brooklinen. They got the most comfortable sheets you can imagine. And everything about Brooklinen is super affordable and extremely comfortable. Brooklinen's goal is to create beautiful, high-quality home essentials that don't break the bank. It's the perfect place to find the best gift. Give the gift of comfort this holiday season with Brooklinen. Brooklinen started with bedding and now offers all the essentials that make every corner of your home next level comfy. Their loungewear that's the best thing they have, in my opinion, but like it's all pretty great. Brooklinen's comfort game is unmatched, and their lineup keeps getting better and better. Give the gift of comfort this holiday season and save. Go to brooklinen.com and use promo code VIALL for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. That's BROOKLINEN.com and enter promo code VIALL for $20 off with a minimum purchase of $100. brooklinen.com and use promo code VIALL. Like, has there been other topics where you have the nerves to bring something up?
No, not always. It's more for this because I feel like this has been something that is recent. I mean, he wasn't always my parents' favorite person that I've dated, especially my mom. She's had doubts about him. Like she goes from feeling good to not feeling good, and this is the more recent situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know your mom
there
or
are
her
reasons
involvement.
for-
Yeah. Some parents are heavily involved, and their opinions, quite honestly, are just kind of like whatever.
Yeah, especially mine.
Yeah. Okay. So there you
Yeah.
go. If you kind of have a bit of a helicopter mom when it comes to your dating life.
Yeah.
You know,
little bit. It got easier since I moved out.
Yeah.
I actually met him after I moved out, so that was kind of like, I don't know, one of those things where I got right into this relationship with him after I'd moved out. So it's a different type of relationship because he's not like at my parents' house all the time, so they're not like knowing what's going on because I've had to like create those boundaries. But some of the things, like, there are things we don't agree on. Like he didn't go to college and I have my master's degree. So there's differences with school that I've been willing to look past.
What do you mean?
And well, that, he didn't go to college. He doesn't really see the importance of schooling, and I do. So I've thought about that quite a bit. In terms of,
well, I mean, I guess that,
yeah,
I'm not big on that just because it really depends on what that means,
right.
Like you don't have, if he could be someone who like doesn't respond well to like traditional education, and he joined the military, and he's thriving in that, and getting an education through the military, and then he got out and applied those skills into like a very successful career. That's entirely possible. Like the fact that he got the college experience doesn't really speak to, your compatibility unless you decided to be some sort of like superficial checklist. Now, it could be a bit of a barometer about like what it says about his motivation level and how focused he is on his career. It sounds like what you're describing, he's more of a free spirit on not necessarily, worry about what he's going to be doing in the next 5 or 10 years. And he'll kind of like settle on whatever job is available. That's a legitimate concern. I don't know if it's specifically the school thing. At the end of the day, like, I don't know if it really matters, but it's just like when you break up with them, and it sounds like that's the path you're going, mentioning the college thing isn't really going to get you anywhere because it's something he'll like take personally, and like he'll make you sound superficial because like, oh well, I'm not good enough because I didn't go to school. Like it has really nothing to do with that. It's like how you're questioning his ability to apply himself, and it sounds like that's something you value as a partner who you can count on, right? Like at the end of the day, like you want to be able to count on someone who is dedicated to working towards a goal and being ambitious. And those are qualities you can want in a partner. And if that's something you're struggling with, it sounds like maybe there's a list of things that are bothering you about this relationship, despite it saying it's good.
No, that's a good point. It hasn't always been easy. I go back and forth between, I'm willing to bury it all and just like, just stay. Well,
who would say that? I just don't feel like any relationship would do well if you have to say, I'm willing to bury it all. That just sounds like a really heavy thing to say, and would suggest that you quite literally have to bury your feelings. And that's, I don't think that's a solution for anyone.
No, it's not. But it's not healthy
what
either.
What makes you even willing to consider that? I mean, you sound like you understand what I'm saying and why that would sound silly, but yet you said it anyways.
Well, the whole thing is I don't know. I mean, I've always been the type of person to give the people the benefit of the doubt and see the good in people. And I know that he's a good person. He makes a point to text me every day, and there hasn't been any issues there. It's just, I don't know. I just can't help like those negative feelings, and I don't know how to express that. I don't know how to say like I'm feeling this way because of X, Y, and Z. It's hard for me because I want things to be okay, even though sometimes they're always not okay. It's really confusing.
Well, I guess you just have to decide how much are your feelings or how much are they coming from your parents? Like you've acknowledged that your mom seems to be a little bit more involved in your dating life or romantic life than you think would be normally like acceptable or healthy. And in those cases, it can be very hard for people in your position to feel confident about their own choices because, like it's like you probably trust and admire your parents in a lot of ways, but here you are trying to make your own decisions. So I think you'd have to just do some internal thinking about like what is important to you.
Okay.
Despite like forget about what your parents, stop thinking about what are mom and dad going to think or like you said, what makes you happy? What do you want? It's a valid thing to want to be with someone that you think can motivate themselves, ambitious, hardworking, can work towards goals, to be, you want to have some sort of security despite you like doing your part. Maybe you don't feel like being the sole breadwinner in a relationship or have to worry about like his kind of more cavalier approach to a career. That's valid. Like not everyone might agree with you, but it's valid that you feel the way you do. And at the risk of sounding harsh and cold, like that's just what you're going to have to say to him and leave. I wouldn't make the mistake of trying to coach him up. Like if this is who he is, this is who he is, and you just need to find someone else. Like he could be just a nice guy who you like a lot of nice things about him, but this thing could be a non-negotiable for you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I want someone who's ambitious. I'm attracted to someone who's ambitious, who I can trust, who's career oriented, and that's not him. And the vax thing, I mean, that's a whole nother kind of can of worms, but what it is, but the bigger picture is, it sounds like, minus that, you really have no faith in his like focus about what he wants to do with his life, and you don't feel like holding his hand and babysitting him or being a mentor to him or a motivator to him, because it can put a lot of stress on a relationship.
Yes.
So
yeah,
you just got to make sure it's your choice and not mom's.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, she has told me, it's your relationship. You decide what you want to do here, but you have a lot of thinking to do.
Yeah,
I know.
I think parents can be manipulative.
Yeah.
Without even trying to be. And they're your parents. I mean, they're so used to coaching you up, but at the end of the day, you just have to feel in your gut that it's your choice.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah. It's I've just been trying to get peace from the situation. It's not going to come easy, but it's been something that's been going on, and I'm trying to just get peace.
Yeah,
that's all
I think
really
the big thing
want.
for you is understanding, to get this peace, you're not going to be able to avoid disappointment. So I think a lot of people try to figure out, well, how can I solve this problem with everyone being happy the entire time? And I think in most cases, that's not possible. So it's going to require some short-term disappointment and hard conversations, but in the long run, it might be what's best for everyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So yeah, I'd focus on that and try to stop trying to make everyone happy in the short run.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate that.
All right. Take care. How's it going?
Good.
What's your name?
My name is Ashley. I'm 28.
How can I help, Ashley?
I think I've kind of entered this new phase of my life. This spring, I went through a really traumatic breakup with an abusive boyfriend. And it was the most painful thing I've ever been through, and traumatic thing.
I'm sorry.
I was seeing a therapist while I was in the relationship. So luckily I was seeing her and had her as I was going through the breakup. And typically with breakups or situationships end with guys, I cope in really unhealthy ways, primarily getting really drunk and going out and hooking up with random guys, just general need for validation type stuff. So I was really proud this time. I spent the last 7 months working through the breakup, recovering from the abusive relationship in therapy. I haven't been partying, drinking, or dating or anything in order to just recover in the healthiest way that I can, and to not end up in a similar situation that I was just in.
That's great.
Yeah, but I'm ready to get back out there, and I've been on dating apps. I've kind of been ready and dabbling for the past month or so. And when I initially wrote into your podcast, I hadn't had sex since the breakup. And so that was 7 months, and it was the longest dry spell I've had since I started having sex when I was 16. And I was feeling super touch starved and really just kind of craving just someone to hook up with, just someone to have, Since then, since I wrote in, I have gone on a few dates with a guy and I have had sex, which is awesome. But if/when this guy I've been seeing stops, it doesn't work or whatever, it's the first guy since the relationship. So who knows what's going to happen? I'm worried that I'm going to be facing the problem I wrote in about, which was I've always enjoyed being single because I've enjoyed meeting guys and hooking up with them. It's just fun for me. But I've found it so difficult to find guys and to do that in the way that I used to do it, which was usually going out, partying, getting drunk, finding a guy, going home with him. Maybe we talk for a few weeks and hook up for a while, and that's it. But I think I've kind of moved on from that stage of my life where I want to do that. I don't really want to hook up in that way or like really engage in that partying culture to facilitate like having sex.
Yeah.
And I thought I would try dating apps just to see like, oh, maybe I can find cute guys on there. But I'm finding it difficult to like find any guy I'm attracted to enough to want to like hook up with them. And I guess like I don't really know how to be single and like engage in that hookup culture that I used to without like partying and without alcohol. And I'm confident in like my abilities in the bedroom, I guess. But I definitely think there's like a social anxiety aspect to it that could be causing this, which is like why I usually would turn to partying and alcohol in order to do this.
Well, sure. Because I mean, alcohol like helps you not be. I feel like not being an expert in alcohol, but my understanding of how it's impacted me and my friends and is that all the things that, you know, especially for someone like me who overthinks things and get anxious and awkward or, you know, like the alcohol like helps you just be like, fuck it, you know?
Yeah, that's how I am. Like right? I definitely.
So what you're feeling now, right? The fact you set this boundary for yourself, like you've recognized the problem and the risks involved of like participating in hookup culture while going out to the bars and relying on alcohol to like take the nerves away. So now you're experiencing the very natural nerves of being like, hey, do you want to fuck? You know?
I feel like, it's like, it feels like I'm starting over and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm like 18 again, like nervous to talk to boys, you know, because
well, that's the thing. Like you're used to like being young and going out to bars and then, you know, like bar time would roll around and like, you know, you're a little sauced and you're just like, I don't know, like you seem good enough. Like, let's go fuck, you know? Like, you literally might have said that at some point. And it didn't even, and like, you know, you go home, you go hook up and the next day you kind of like either don't remember that you said that or B, you try not to remember that you said that because you're like, I don't know, whatever. I said some crazy shit. I got laid, you know, probably has.
I was drunk. I did what I always do.
Yeah. Then, you know, then you like, I don't know, go to get tested and make sure you're like made some good decisions, whatever. And you recognize the risks involved in that. So all you're experiencing now is, you know, the social anxiety that would normally come if you weren't drinking. So I guess like, I guess what I'm saying is now's not necessarily the time to panic, you know, like if nothing else, the good news is this is normal, right? This is, it's not like, oh, I didn't expect this. Of course you expected this, right? So what do we do with this, right? Like, well, I mean, just is, you know, the dating apps, right? Like you have this ability to like text a stranger via dating app, right? And that takes some of the awkwardness or the feeling of rejection out of it. You know, I think a lot of people when they're texting without people they really know, it makes them feel a little braver than say, you know, going up to someone. So I would argue that even if you're sober texting with someone, it's almost like talking to someone for the first time drunk because you're kind of like, who gives a shit if I get rejected? I don't really know. And I'm not necessarily saying you should go on the dating apps and just see a guy that you find is cute and be like, I don't know, guy, if do you want to fuck? You know, I'm just saying like, I don't know. Like, as always, be patient, you know, understand that it's normal to feel a little awkward and a little nervous. Like you said, like, I don't think you're all that worried about like men finding you attractive. And if you decide to like want to hook up with them, odds are you're going to get more yeses than nos. So you're like, what makes you the most nervous about pursuing a guy you're sexually attracted to?
Well, there's two parts to my answer. And one is that I just generally really struggle to find guys that I'm even attracted to enough on the apps. Like I'm very much, and this is something I'm working through too and noticing about myself, is I'm very much a like, yes, like a fuck yes or a fuck no kind of person. And I would say like 98% of the guys I see on dating apps, I'm like, no. And like,
Well, now you're seeing him with
So
like
even
clear eyes.
Yeah. And like even just finding someone where I'm like, oh, that guy's cute. Like I definitely am like attracted to him in that way is hard for me on the dating apps. Whereas when I'm drunk, I'm like, have my drunk goggles on and whatever. And then the second part of that is when I do find someone, I'm on Hinge, for example. And I was on Tinder, but Tinder, like, I don't know, Tinder kind of creeps me out. So I'm just kind of on Hinge right now. But I don't want to like hurt someone or like, even though I know people go on dating apps to hook up all the time, I guess it's just not natural for me if I'm like talking to someone like enough to be like, just try to have like the tiniest bit of connection so we can meet up. I'll feel bad and feel like, it's not fair of me to do that to them just to like hook up with them, even though they are guys and a lot of them probably don't care. Yeah, I guess that's kind of where it comes from. And like, I feel like because it is on Hinge, there's like the pressure to really like go out on a date with them and like talk to them and whatever. And I guess like, I don't necessarily have to do that, but I feel that like, that's what I feel. Cause I'm like,
You
I
feel
don't want
obligated to say yes to these guys who are swiping right kind of thing?
Yeah, I feel obligated to like, just, if they want to like take me on a date, I guess I feel bad if I'm just going on the date to like hook up with them. And I want to like communicate maybe like I guess I feel awkward in the communication of like I'm not really like
ran this by any of them because I feel like some of them would be fine with it.
Yeah, I haven't. The guy that I currently have, I've been on 3 dates with him and we've had sex every date, but like it's like I can tell he likes me and like he wants to continue, and I actually do too. I do like him. I just don't know, like, it's been 3 dates, so we'll see how long it lasts. But I haven't really found anyone that I'm like, yeah, I want to like just have sex with you too.
How old are you?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
I think that
sounds like you're maturing,
Yeah.
And with maturity, we realize that we're more aware of what we want and what we don't want. We recognize some of our choices we made in the past and the risks that were involved. And, sometimes it's kind of like, oh, fuck. Like every time when I get older, like I always have this, like my desire to want to go out and have fun is still there, right? But the difference is like now when I go out, I'm always reminded why I don't like going out anymore. And I want to go out and have the same fun I enjoyed when I was 20, when I was like out for the first time and all this like stimulation that was out there was all new and exciting to me. But I just see the world differently now. Like I see the Matrix, so to speak. That's why they call it, that's why they say ignorance is bliss. And so it's just, that's part of growing up. Like you're seeing the world differently now. And I do think you're overthinking it a little bit. Like it's going to yes, you're going to have more guys you don't like than like. You are like everyone else. Everyone likes, you should not be interested in everyone. And once in a while, especially if you think you're a catch and you have confidence in yourself, as you should, you're going to have to disappoint people with dating. And there's nothing in like, first of all, if you're like, oh, I don't know about this guy, it's only been 3 dates. Well, I can tell you one thing. After 3 dates, if you can't say to him, what I like about you so far, I really like. And then there's so much I want to get to know, but like, we'll see. If he can't handle that in a mature way, that would be a red flag,
Yeah.
And stop assuming you know how he feels about you. I mean, I think we always make that mistake. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's plenty of times where people are like, I know they're into me. Probably, maybe, but also they might experience something with you that changes their mind. So like, stop thinking for them and date this guy knowing and then communicate that with him, especially if he checks in, like how you feeling about things, and you just tell him. And then going forward, I wouldn't, if it doesn't work out with this guy, I would try just being honest. Just try saying what you think,
Yeah.
If whether it's like, hey, I'm just interested in hooking up right now, say that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of guys will take you up on that. But like,
Yeah.
have you ever just been upfront with what you want and your intentions in dating, whether it's to date for a relationship or date to just hook up?
I have, yeah. I had someone before my previous relationship that we hooked up and then we were going on a couple of dates, and I told him like right off the bat that I was just like, I am not really interested in
You said
anything
before hooking up or
serious.
after hooking up?
After we like hooked up, and it was like a drunken hookup, and then he wanted to take me on dates, and I was like, I enjoy hanging out with you and I would like to continue hanging out with you, but I just don't
Well, now you got to start doing it before.
want anything serious. Huh?
Now you have to start doing it before. People are always just like, it's so weird. People they need to get naked, exchange bodily fluids before they talk. I don't like, what is this new world we're living in? The getting naked and having sex without knowing anything about each other, that's fine. That's normal.
The easy part.
Whatever. But like having a conversation about what we want in the bedroom or don't want in relationships, that's nuts to like bring up before. You know?
Yeah.
And I think especially in your situation, these are things you should say prior to having sex with anyone, especially if you're just like, hey, listen, I'm going to be totally real with you. You'll blow these guys' minds. You're just like, I like you so far. I don't know about you, but like, I'm physically attracted to you. I'd love to hook up with you, but you know, I'm not sure where this is going romantically, but if you're down for that, I just want to be upfront. And I think that'll help, especially if you're the rock star, if you're like a rock star in bed and you're having sex with these guys and all of a sudden they're like, I'm obsessed, like I love her. And you're just like, I don't know, buddy,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just kind of need to try it. And what better way than someone who you're both not invested in each other and it's just on a dating app and you can just like right off the bat do that. And I did get advice from my hairdresser. He was like, why don't you just like try to like have sex with the dudes that like all the conservative dudes that are hot on Hinge that you would never date because of their political values, but you think they're hot. Like that way you won't get emotionally invested. I was like, I guess I could do that, but
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the biggest thing is I think you should just work on trying to have some of these conversations that might feel a little bit awkward and normal just because you're not used to having them either. You're used to either avoiding them or you're used to being drunk. And on dating apps, again, I've always like, if you listen to the show, like especially for women, Zoom first dates are a great way of kind of weeding people out and getting to know these guys without having to like dress up or go to dinner. And you can see if you vibe with these people. And that maybe even that's a way to just be like, they don't have to have any of your personal information. And you just come clean with some of these people. Like, what are your intentions? And literally practice having these what feel like awkward conversations. But like, if you can get drunk and have sex with a stranger, then you can definitely have these conversations with a stranger.
Yeah.
And it just takes practice. And I think also applaud yourself for like, setting this boundary for yourself and being committed to like making it work. Because the easier thing to do would be going back to your old habits and being less patient and getting drunk and having sex with strangers because that's what you're comfortable with. And I think you should pat yourself on the back for like trying to figure out a way to like continue to do this thing that feels uncomfortable right now, but is safer and healthier for you long term. So like some of this just takes practice and like challenge yourself to do that and just find creative ways to have some of these conversations because whether it's a guy who you have different belief systems in that you're not going to want to like end up with, like I think at the end of the day, you still want to have these conversations with first because like having sex with the super conservative person, if you're a liberal, like what you're doing is you're telling yourself, well, I'm going to hook up with this guy. And then once he finds out that we have different points of view, then he won't want to date me and I won't want to date him and we can avoid the awkward conversation. So stop trying to figure out, your hairdresser's trying to figure out a way for you to avoid the awkward conversation. And I guess that's a way, but I don't know if that's the healthiest, most productive way. And I don't think that's going to help you get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I haven't tried that because I was like, that just, in theory, that's like funny and like, sure, why not? But like,
I would literally, if I were you,
it doesn't get to the point.
When we get off the phone, go to Google, create a new email address just for Zoom dates. Go on dating apps and anyone you're remotely like physically attracted to, just say, let's have a Zoom first date. And then one person, try saying whatever the fuck you want. Just say crazy ass shit. Who gives a shit? You'll never have to talk to them again. You know, like just practice saying things that are on your mind, you know, and it will never be as awkward or as bad as you are worried about, you know, and people fucking love honesty, especially, you know, most of the time, honestly, like once you start saying this shit to guys, your problem is they'll just all fall in love with you because you're like, you're saying crazy, what they think is crazy ass shit they've never heard. And all you are is being honest.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I'm going to do that. I think that's a good plan. It's kind of like, you know, in therapy, we do stuff in terms of like exposure therapy for like some of my intrusive thoughts. And it's like exposure therapy. It's to like my uncomfortable shit that I'm not used to. Like, I just got to do it and just practice it. And there's like no stake in the game. You can just
totally
do it. And
all right. Well, good luck. Yeah. Stick to it. Don't give up don't go back to comfortable and easy.
Yeah, I won't.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. How's it going?
Hi, I'm Tara. My name is Tara. I'm 26. And before I begin, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you. I love the podcast. So thank you to you and your team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for calling in. How can I help, Tara?
So I'm 26, as I said, and I've been in the relationship I just ended 2 weeks ago for 6 years. And before I get into last year and what kind of made it end, I'll give you some context. He's a year older, so we're basically the same age. But once I first got in the relationship, when I just turned 20, I don't think I really realized, and it was probably really ignorant of me, but realized what it would be like to be with somebody who grew up kind of in a rough upbringing with a lot of trauma that they hadn't handled or got help with. So I think I just thought like, okay, if I just love this person and care about them a lot, things will work out and he'll be okay, which is, again, ignorant. Looking back, I'm embarrassed that I thought that. But because of that, I justified a lot of red flags and things I probably wouldn't tolerate. I would just give that the excuse like, okay, he didn't really have the best examples, so like we could work on it and it'll get better. And that goes for like communication. He was really good at communicating the like nice and cute stuff, but anytime things got a little bit difficult, it was pretty rough. He would storm out a lot and he would get angry at the fact that like I was a little upset over something, and it could just be something small, and I would just be like, hey, when you couldn't figure this out and you were taking it out on me, it just kind of hurt my feelings a bit. I get you were stressed, but maybe like try to work on that. And then all of a sudden it turned and escalated to like something super big. And when that got better, I was like, okay, I'm seeing changes. It's getting more positive. And then this last year came and he was going through a lot of rough times, but he was coping with not the best ways, which would be a lot of drinking. So again, I'm trying to be patient, understanding, sympathetic, and help out. But the drinking just started getting worse and worse. And it kind of turned into a toxic cycle the last few months of me crying and begging him to like cut it down and slow down. And it just maybe changing for a week or two, but then going back to those super bad habits. And that is when I really just had to realize that just because I wanted him to change and hoped he would doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. So I finally left 2 weeks ago, and it's definitely been really rough since then. I just wanted to know like the advice for feeling that guilt of walking away, and like if it should just be something where I don't even check in, don't see how he's doing, just a clear cut, or is it okay to like be like, is everything okay? Everything going well?
First of all, I'm sorry you're going through this. That sucks.
Thanks.
But yeah, I mean, I think, well, you know, because you started off by saying you felt embarrassed for thinking, you know, love was enough, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And my first thought when you said that is, well, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, we've all been there, and I don't think we should ever become so cynical that we like don't at least believe that like our love for each other can be a great motivator to want to be our best versions for ourselves, for the people we love most, right? So like, in theory, like it's good to believe in the love that you think you have in a relationship, right? Now you recognize that just because you might have love, that like that's a good place to start, but like you have to be open to the possibility that you're wrong, or that the love that you might feel isn't reciprocated by them, or maybe they are incapable through like who they are or where they've been from, or their lack of wanting to improve themselves as individuals, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have now come to that conclusion, right? Which is sad. It's disappointing, you know, but, and then you're sitting here thinking, I'm having a hard time with it. Is it okay to reach out, et cetera, et cetera? So you're kind of in a way, you have two contrary points of view. Like on one side, you're just like, oh, I should have known better. I'm stupid. I should have. On the other side, you're just like, even though I know it's wrong, I'm still sad and I want to be with him, or I want to reach out to him and I want to check in on him.
Yeah.
You know, and all that is just hope that you have that maybe it could still work out, or, you know, maybe there's that part of the reason why you're reaching out is because you want to find out that finally it's a wake up call, that he'll be really willing to do all these things. But like, what is, you know, deep down, what do you really believe? Like, if you really thought there was hope, my guess is you probably wouldn't have ended it. But
correct. I know my gut that it was the right decision. I shouldn't say reach out. I should say answer, because I will never reach out. I got to the point where I obviously still have tons of stuff that I need to get from his place. And when I do ask, like, okay, let me know a good time this week to grab it, it ends up turning into him saying like, oh, I'll change and stuff like that. But I have it in my mind that if he was going to change, it would have happened before it got to the point.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to even, like, if I give him space before asking to get my stuff again.
What does he have of yours?
Lots of clothes, lots of shoes, lots of like home stuff, just random stuff.
So a bunch of things that it would be totally nice to get those back, none of which you really need.
Correct.
So I would just remember that.
Yeah.
And prioritize everyone healing over any of these material things. Because that's essentially what you have to decide. What am I going to prioritize? Everyone moving on. And because you want him to move on, right? You want him to accept your decision and get over this pain or whatever he's feeling, whether it's just the pain of rejection, of finally realizing you're gone, you know, or, you know, because it's probably not totally love, right? It's just realizing he fucked up, but this is who he is, or whatever. And, and despite you coming to this conclusion, you're naturally sad, and you're going to need to heal, and dealing with this stuff that you're thinking about getting back, that's not going to help you heal. So what I would do if I were you is, you have mutual friends, I'm guessing, or whatever. Yeah. Is that you can ask him politely, and he's going to hate this because he's hoping that the stuff that you have is a reason to get a hold of you, to talk to you. So he's most likely going to be very difficult when providing the solution. And that's where then you realizing that you're prioritizing healing over stuff, because what you should do is either text him and just say, hey, I'm out of town or whatever, or I'm busy with other things. Could you drop off my stuff, or could I have your mom or your brother or your friend or whoever, like anyone, come and get my stuff, so that you're avoiding any further communication and dialogue between him, because there's nothing he can say that's going to change your mind, and it's only going to create a fight, and it's only going to create false hope potentially, or whatever. It's just going to be a lot of exhausting things. So getting that answer is going to make him mad, and he might say fuck you to that. Yeah. And maybe he'll burn your shit. I don't know. Yeah. But you have to be, you're still prioritizing healing over stuff. Yeah. And I do think that's what you should prioritize. Because the more, even if he hates you and said, it will help him heal faster and accept your decision by knowing that you're not interested in seeing him.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And with that go to, his sister keeps reaching out to me, and I don't answer. I gave her the thank you for accepting me into your family. I wish you guys all the best kind of thing, but it doesn't really end. And I just have not answered because it's just a lot. I'm trying to, process and stuff. But I don't know if I should send like a final, like, hey, just sorry, I'm sorry, this is just what I need to do now, which I've already said. So I don't really know what to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you've already said it.
Yeah.
You don't need like, you sound like well on your way and you're doing all things right? Because a lot of people would fall trap to like, well, I don't want to be with them, but I still want to be I still want to be the really likable girlfriend. Yeah. And that desire to be still liked by the family would result in you like bending over backwards and having all these conversations, even with the sister and the mom or whatever, because you want to make sure that they actually side with you in the breakup.
Yeah.
And none of that really matters, which sounds like So like you've done enough. You've tried to, you said thank you. You've done the requirement, but like he's using his sister to get a hold of you because you're standing your ground.
Yeah.
So I think you just keep holding a hard line with everyone and prioritize everyone healing and everyone moving on. They're having a hard time accepting your decision. And that's all this is. They're just not accepting your decision. And they're looking for hope. They're looking for, they're just trying. And it's a little bit of desperation. And I empathize with them, but they will accept your decision faster by sticking to what you already currently doing and not giving in.
Okay. I just hate that guilt feeling. I hope goes away soon because it's so hard seeing him and his family trying to like be like, this could still work, even though I know it isn't. So I'm not really answering and I feel awful, but I don't know what else to do.
I mean, if you want to like reply to his sister one more time and to say, hey, listen, I really appreciate it again, thank you. But like, I just think it's best, this is how I feel and I respect your family, but like, I just want him to respect my choice. I want him to heal and be happy. I'm working on healing. I've moved on and they might hate you, but like, whatever. Of course they're going to take his side. That's, their family. Right. So yeah, I think you're doing a good job and I think you just need to keep doing it. And the stuff that you have, none of which is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
And it definitely have someone else but you get the stuff. I think that will reaffirm your dedication to move on and hopefully help them accept it. It's just like they don't want you've moved on.
Only my books I really miss, not the clothes.
All of which I'm sure you can get back somehow.
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
I mean, reasonably, you'll probably end up getting the stuff, but he will drag his feet.
Okay. I don't mind if it takes long or it never comes. I just didn't even want him to have to like look at it all the time.
Well, right now he's trying to weaponize it and use it to his advantage.
Yeah.
He's trying to get you to talk to him again.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all that's happening. He's just desperate,
Yeah.
He's and he just needs to accept it, and this will help him do that.
Alrighty, well, thank you for the advice. I guess I needed to hear that I'm doing okay.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing everything right, to be honest, and congrats on, making the right decision for yourself. And I know it's hard, and you'll get over it, and it sounds like you can leave this relationship with no regrets because you probably tried harder and longer than you probably now realize you should have. And I wouldn't beat yourself up too hard about like believing in love. I think don't become too much of a cynic, and now you can look for something else. You're still young. You've learned a lot from this relationship and you can apply these skills to your next relationship and be fine. I think you should, overall, it sounds like you should feel pretty good about this whole experience despite it ending in a sad way.
Yeah, I have that relief a little bit of not worrying all the time anymore.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Yeah. Well, best of luck on your future.
Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. What's your name?
Jamie. I'm 28.
How can I help, Jamie?
So I'm going to kind of give you a little background, and then I have like two big questions that I just kind of want to get your perspective on. So I was in a relationship for a little over 4 years. And in the beginning, of course, things are great. And I knew really from the very beginning that this was somebody that I could see a future with because we had the same values. I really liked the way we resolved conflict. Like my big boxes that I want to get checked, he checked all those. Very early on in our relationship, one of the biggest things that we kind of always talked about was my physical affection. I'm not very affectionate. And it is something that I want to be, but I just wasn't.
Question, are you talking more like you're not very affectionate, PDA, like holding hands and like caressing their arm or whatever, or you're not like that sexual?
PDA.
PDA. Okay.
Holding hands, right. Like if we even said if we were walking to a restaurant, like it's not.
So physical
doesn't
touch
feel
isn't your
natural.
love language. Yeah.
Right. But I want it to be.
Okay.
But anyway, so that was that part.
Uh-huh.
Then about 2 years into our relationship, COVID happened. And we weren't living together at the time. And all of a sudden it was kind of like, he kind of gave me an ultimatum without giving me an ultimatum, that it was kind of like, I would like to move in together to, take the next step in our relationship. Even before that, we had like gone and looked at rings. Okay. So initially I didn't want to because I had set a boundary for myself that I had wanted that commitment before. And that was also something that, my parents had for me as well. But I kind of felt the pressure that, I have to move in or we're going to break up. And I don't want that to happen. So we move into an apartment. And again, I don't regret it. It was great. I love living together. And then I noticed that there is no talk about engagement. There is no talk about the future. And I start building a lot of resentment because I compromised in living together. And again, there was no talk about engagement and I wasn't getting that commitment. And then the resentment starts setting in. So then about 6 months ago, we break up because he's unhappy. He feels like I don't show him that I love him in the relationship. And my whole thing is just about this engagement. So we break up. About a week later, he reaches out and we're like, you know what? Let's give this a go. He opens up about a lot about, how he just wants me to show him that I love him and using the different love languages and all of that. So we're like, let's go all in and really work on this. So we do. And of course, the first month is great. And it's
you're
like
only
the
broken
honeymoon.
up for a week?
Only a week. It's like the honeymoon phase again. We're, overly aware of, making sure that we're doing everything for each other. And then of course, real life happens again and we just kind of settle in.
Are you still living with each other?
Yes, we are. And when we broke up, he like moved out his stuff and I was living there and then he moved back in a week later.
You didn't think maybe not to do that?
Not to move back in together?
Yeah.
I guess, no, not at the time. But wait, it gets better. So we get back together again. Things are great. And then things aren't great again because I get back into, I don't know, I guess the resentment. I'm not showing him that I love him. And I could tell that he's, not himself and he's unhappy. So then 6 months goes by from when we got back together the first time. And I said, that's it. We broke up. We were both very sad. We were like, I just wish things were different, but we have to go our separate ways. We're done. I'm not getting the commitment that I need and I'm not giving you what you need. So that's it. He moved out. I lived there and I knew he closed that door and I was done. I was like, I have to move on with my life.
Uh-huh.
A month later, he reaches out again and, comes by and he's like, I started seeing a therapist, which is amazing. I've seen one for years. I think that's great. And he's talking about how, he's learning a lot about himself and he really feels like things would be different this time. If, we shouldn't give up something so great. We really should work on things. So now here's my question. I have two things on my mind. First, I worry that, I do want to be physically affectionate. I do want to be like that. And I don't know if it's me or I don't know if you could answer this or maybe I'm just not the right person. And then
Have you always been this way though?
It's hard to tell because he really is my first serious relationship. I was in a relationship before that, but it was nothing compared to this. So I can't really compare it.
I mean, you were ready to get engaged to this guy. In fact, you were more than ready. You were just like waiting. You're just like, come on, fucking ask me.
Yes. I know.
So like, why?
I know.
That's a little, I mean, there's a couple ways to look at that. One, it's nuts since it seemed like you were just focused on the engagement without really even knowing how you felt about him. Here you are even wondering if you could be more affectionate with like literally anyone else. It's like, I didn't even want to touch him. But it's also totally possible you're just not that affectionate of a person.
Right.
You know? That's
true. Yes. So, and then my other question is, like, at what point do you say, like, let's throw in the towel? At what point do you say, like, I just worry that I'm throwing away something that could be really great. And there are so many great things that.
I'm just out of curiosity. I mean, yes, we are big advocates for anyone getting therapy is just routine maintenance. But when he said it, he's like, hey, I'm getting therapy. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, in your mind, what did you think he needed therapy for?
He has a very hard time with communicating his needs. Something will bother him and he'll be like, it's fine. And then it's not fine. And then weeks and months go by and then it becomes this big
so he's a little passive aggressive.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. He is very hard with confrontation. I wouldn't say confrontation, but just opening up about anything, really.
Are you good with confrontation?
I don't enjoy confrontation, but even when we got back together the first time, we would set a day every week to just sit down and talk about whatever happened that week so that things wouldn't build up. So
when you said we did that,
mm-hmm.
Did we do that, or was it your idea that you ensured that you both did?
It was my idea. And it's funny you say that because I put a reminder on my phone every week. And every time it went off on my phone, I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to wait an hour, see if he remembers that we're going to do it. Because we did it the same day every week.
So you wanted him to remember your idea?
After a while, like in the beginning, I was always the one being like, okay, let's sit down, let's do this. But then after a while, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I always the one having to remind you that we do this on Sunday? You know, he would never initiate it. Am I wrong for that? Is that petty?
Wrong? I don't, listen, relationships are complicated. You had this idea, you were doing what you thought was best for a relationship, and
right.
It's a bit rigid. It works for you. It might not work for him. True.
True.
In terms of communication styles and how he works through his emotions. Like, what if you don't have anything to say? Also, you're not even. I'm not even entirely sure or believe that you weren't. You might have been doing it knowing, or you feel like he's not good at communicating. So here you schedule a weekly check-in so that you can get an update on how he's feeling. So it's like you were doing it for you, not necessarily for the relationship. But yeah, you wanted him to remember.
Yes.
So you know what I'm saying? Like you're putting a lot of pressure on him. And I'm not saying necessarily you're doing anything wrong because your needs aren't being met either, right? So I understand why you feel the way you did.
Mm-hmm.
But this is how things can snowball.
Right.
Have you guys had couples therapy before?
So that was another thing. When we got back together the second time and I noticed things were kind of going south again, I suggested, this was before he was seeing a therapist. I suggested, why don't we go to couples therapy together? And he was very like, no, I don't, you really think we're at that point? I'm like, first of all, I don't believe you have to be in a bad place to go to couples therapy. I think it's very healthy. But at the same time, I do think that it would be great for us. And he didn't want to. Now, of course, the story's changed. Now he's coming around. He's like, well, let's go to therapy now. And that's where we're at. And
how old are you guys again? How old are you?
28.
How old is he?
28.
Okay. So you're like adults. If you listen to this show, I'm not a huge advocate for continuing to get back together with your ex. You guys still care about each other. I'm not hearing any big red flags or real bad toxic behavior. it could just be as simple as you guys need to figure out and learn how to communicate more effectively with each other. And a couples therapist could really help with that, right? I think it's great that I think if one person is going to therapy and the other person's not, I think it's important that they go to therapy before you do couples therapy, but he is. And so great. That's potentially good. I mean, I think it was silly for you guys to break up for a week and get back together and move back in with each other when the very thing, when you were building resentment solely on the fact that you had told yourself at some point in your life, I'm not going to live with a guy without a proposal. And then you compromised that boundary that you had. And it would be nuts for him to propose to you simply because you had this boundary, which people do all the time.
Right.
And thank God he didn't propose to you, because clearly you guys have communication issues. I think you should remember that, though. All this resentment you built up for him and not asking you. Right now, we're all appreciative of the fact that he didn't. And I think you need to be careful, to not set these artificial deadlines and timelines and then get frustrated at yourself and your partner because things aren't going the way you planned. And then you project your frustration onto him.
Yeah. Because that's totally dead on. That's how I am I'm a very big planner, and I was, I'm upset that things didn't, go the way that I had planned for my life.
Yeah. Well,
but I
welcome
think
to life.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. I think just like the other biggest thing is just like the physical part of it. Like I just wish, because I know he wants that, and I know that's a big thing. And
that I can't help you with, because if you're saying, I haven't dated a lot of other people,
there's nothing to go off of.
Yeah. Also, like, you're out in the world. Do you have this burning sensation to walk up to men and touch them? Like, are you? But like, all jokes aside, I'm serious. It's like, I don't know if you need to date other people to know that, like, you like to be touched or you like to touch people you're affectionate with. I think if you're someone who likes physical touch, that's just kind of who you are innately, I'm not saying you're going around touching everybody, when it's appropriate, but when you're you're physically affectionate. My brother has always been a hugger, with his siblings, with his friends. He's a physically affectionate person. It's just who he is as a person. It might not be who you are. That would be something you guys could work through in therapy, potentially.
Right.
So is it silly to break up and get back together and change and do nothing different? Yes. And that's what sounds like what you guys have been doing differently. He has to acknowledge that, like, it's not fair to turn down suggestions of ways to work on the relationship and only be willing to do it when you're willing to walk away. That's not fair to you. It's not necessarily fair to him that you're getting frustrated with him because he's not remembering the things that you wanted to do that he never wanted to do in the first place, and you only wanted to do them because you were trying to overcompensate for something he's not good at. It would have been like him scheduling weekly meetings for you to like touch him,
right,
and hold his hand, and you wanted, what I'm saying? Like, this is literally what,
right.
And imagine how annoying that would be that you didn't like remember. And then he built up resentment because he didn't remember the task that he came up with for you to work on your weaknesses.
Right. That's true.
So I just don't think, you guys, it should all be a we and a team. And
yes,
it should be, you guys are connected, and, there's the individuals, right? There's you, there's him, and then there's the relationship. And I think it seems like right now, you two are more focused on your individual needs and want the individual needs to be met, right? And if they're met, then you guys will be happy in the relationship. But the relationship needs to be met. The needs of the relationship. Like, there's you two are part of one relationship. And how does those needs as the relationship get met? And you guys are struggling with that. And yes, it seems like if it were to work, it would require some therapy.
Okay. I really appreciate your help.
No, my pleasure. And in the future, just be careful about deciding you want something and forcing it to happen, because it doesn't make anyone happy. All right, take care. All right,
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
So much.
All right, take care.
I appreciate it.
My
Bye.
pleasure. All right, bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to send in your questions at asknick@castme.com, cast with a K. And on Wednesday, we learn all about dreams, baby. Dreams with world-renowned dream expert, Ian Wallace. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos like our Tuesday Bachelor recaps and Wednesday celebrity and expert interviews. See you next time.